Enough waiting on this thing. I've been waiting for a free weekend, and a weekend that we have some decent weather, because I can't get this thing in the garage. For this reason right here. I've got an M3 completely taken apart that's in the way, that does not run and drive. Obviously, there's no drivetrain because it's getting the LS that came out of my Yukon. Total different story. We're working on the first gen Dodge here today. And I'm sick of coming out every day looking at it sitting in the driveway, still two-wheel drive, with all the parts needed to four-wheel drive swap it right in front of me. So I pulled up the Dodge as far as I could to the garage, and we're gonna get this thing under construction today. This truck is in such good shape that this little clip that holds the brake line in is free to move. I mean, it's kind of stuck in there, but it's not rusted. That's not the problem. It's just old. Like some of these trucks, this would be so rusty it would just be crumbling. There. I got it out. Didn't need WD-40 or anything. And the brake line, actually when I broke it loose, I could undo it with my fingers. Like, it wasn't corroded to the point where there was no turning back or anything like that. Like, I could literally put this back together if I needed to. Well guys, I'm freezing. It's like 28 degrees out, and honestly that only took like an hour probably, maybe a little bit longer, but I removed this whole assembly with the upper and lower control arms. The next fun part is going to be grinding out these rivets or drilling them out to get the two-wheel drive subframe off. A couple steering components to come off still, but that should be easy. Man, it's cold out. I'm already liking the way this thing is sitting, even though it's only on jack stands and there's no suspension in the front. Just lift it up a little bit more than it was two-wheel drive, looks so much better. First one. Rivets, man. Free. Supposed to be. So I cut off all the stuff that's going to be in the way of getting the two-wheel drive subframe or crossmember out of this thing. So we'll have to kind of move it forward and at an angle so we can get it out of the frame because it's like a C-channel shape. But we gotta unbolt the motor mounts first, which is just 2 bolts on the bottom. And I think we'll have to jack up the motor a little bit to get the studs out of the holes in the subframe or crossmember. And then we'll start hitting her with a hammer, I guess. Let's do it. Cold. we got to the point where everything is almost out. The two-wheel drive Crossmember is almost out. I do think I'm gonna have to cut it up to get it out. What I'm running into right now is trying to make sure the four-wheel drive Crossmember goes in the right spot. So I wanna look at a four-wheel drive truck just to figure out exactly how it was done from the factory. Luckily, I know a guy. My dude, Zach, better be ready to be on YouTube.
We like YouTube.
Well, everyone is gonna be drooling over this thing.
It's okay.
This is the dude you need to know. It's just okay, he says. Oh yeah, let's see under that thing. Would you say it's a mess?
It's a mess.
No, that's far from it. Just in time for winter. This thing's gonna rip though. Told you I knew a guy. So, let's take a look at the frame where the engine crossmember mounts, which are these 4 rivets on the factory four-wheel drive truck. And then we're gonna look at this bracket up here, which appears to hold the core support or the radiator, and then obviously the leaf spring mount for the front. So the first thing I want to do is make sure this crossmember under here is the same as the two-wheel drive, which it really does look like it is. I'm going to take a bunch of pictures, and then I want to figure out where to mount this bracket and that bracket, if there's existing holes on my frame or not, and then we'll take some measurements for the engine crossmember. I don't know, I didn't film much of this, but I did make drilling templates for the four-wheel drive crossmember, and I literally just made this off of the crossmember, so we could basically match drill the exact hole pattern for the crossmember in the frame. So this hole already exists on both sides. So you can use that existing hole from the two-wheel drive crossmember for the four-wheel drive. So that stays put, we didn't have to touch it. And then we just use this drill template, drill 3 other holes, and we're able to fit this thing in to the factory location, and then the motor can drop back into the original spot, and the motor mounts are exactly the same, so it just sits just how it would in the two-wheel drive. We're finally done with taking parts off of the truck, and we're getting to the best part of building anything, which is putting it all back together. Pushing, so they should. Oh, they just slide right in. I thought this was gonna be a huge pain in the butt. This should be pretty easy. We'll just slide them in right now. So you gotta watch yourself. You need some grease. It's the next day. We got the Dodge sitting on our own weight. Back to being freezing too. It's like 20 degrees out. So the jack stands are under there because it's really hard to find a W350 dually lug nut that fits a single wheel. These are 9/16 studs, not 1/2 inch like the regular first gens. Anyway, the jack stands are under there just because there's only a couple lug nuts on there. But everything is together. Need to get some longer bolts for here and here. These are 4.5. I'm gonna go get 5-inch. So one thing I wanted to show you guys was I I know there's people that are, you know, concerned that I drilled out rivets or cut them off and I'm replacing them with bolts. But look at this rivet. I mean, this is what came from the frame for the cross members and whatever. So these are some of the rivets that I took out and I'm replacing with grade 8 1/2-inch bolts. So in my opinion, that's a big upgrade from rivets. And I'm using nylock nuts to make sure everything stays in place. So we should be good there. This thing looks hilarious on the single wheels in the front, but with the dually hubs. But this is like just below shoulder height here. So this, in my opinion, is how a first gen should sit. You can see this thing behind me finally rolling on its own weight. I'm gonna pull it out of the driveway. I think the brakes are bled enough to be able to at least back it up and move it forward. We're gonna find out. I've been out for the count this week with the flu, and I just got to work on this thing today. It's literally snowing and it's freezing out, but I just could not wait another day to get this thing going. So let's check it out. This is exactly what a first gen should look like. I believe these are second gen wheels. They came on the chassis that I bought. I just threw them on because I feel like they would look better than the first gen stocks, but they are a little flat. But that front axle and everything under there is just meant to be. Oh my God, it looks so good. That good old 12 valve cold start. This thing still has a full exhaust, so it's not like the crazy cold starts you always see of these things, but see how our brakes are doing. I can just push it to the floor. Okay, they're starting to get harder. I'm gonna need to have someone help me bleed these. Well, she swapped. It drove. It's a little bit squatted. We'll raise up the rear a couple inches. Man, that looks so much better already. Looks hilarious back here. It looks so squatted. We cannot keep it like that. Easy bed access though. Guys, this is the end of the video. Thank you for sticking around. This thing's finally got the straight axle Dana 60 in the front. Soon to get the factory transfer case and 4-wheel drive trans, and then we'll have a true 4-wheel drive first gen Cummins. Stay tuned right here to Nasty Nate. Subscribe below. Catch you in the next one.